We'll start recording this. I'll put this here. It's that weird.
Oh.
I'm right there. I don't know why I'm insisting on doing it this odd way. Okay, so I've kind of identified then the strengths, and that's just my personal thing from knowing you three as well. It's not. I don't think any of you are shittier presenters or shittier writers or shittier at data analytics. I just think it is what it is, and it's all going to be a team thing anyway. So I will cover up with a band-aid whatever our deficiencies are. So right before you came in, we were kind of talking through the 10K. So for annual, so let's start with the annual report. So for the annual report, when you were looking at it, it was largely what, just kind of like puff pieces about the different properties. Is that?
That's what I got for it. Like lots of like pretty pictures.
Yeah, pretty
trying to tell you
pictures.
about like all of their. There's like sections for like each of their properties.
Right.
Little like short little blurbs about like their financials. Not too much.
Right. So when we look at so when we were looking at the 10K, the kind of pages that we were pointing out, which I thought were the most relevant, there was page 16, right? 16, 9,
25.
yeah, 25,
I think 19.
19, yeah, 19 through 25. Pages 19 through 25 were particularly useful for understanding the dynamics of the business. Because what it did for us is it gave us a way of thinking about what actually the cost was of doing business. I mean, the things that were striking to me, and I think Dylan were striking to you as well. The first one would be there does seem to be a cyclical nature to their performance. I know that real estate is on the mainland is like that, but this isn't exactly a real estate play either, because again, it's a little bit different than that. It's almost a little bit
Consumer behavior affected
right. And I mean, because if you look at the two real estate plays, and again, this is kind of the one that I was trying to think, I've been thinking through since last week, since we talked last, was how is Howard Hughes, if you think of these as like, I mean, honestly, this is the way I kind of thought about this morning when I was driving to work, was that it almost seemed like Howard Hughes is doing a little bit of both the Alexander and Baldwin style of direct ownership of properties and the general growth properties, management of properties. It's like they're doing a little bit of both, right? So they do own some properties and they are more than just managers, but sometimes they are only just managers. And that was my best understanding of what is Howard Hughes, is that it's kind of operating in that middle space between the two.
I think they're saying their ownership properties is more for like a higher cash flow.
Yeah.
To sort of balance out the because they were talking about 2.9 billion in debt.
Yeah.
With 1 billion due in 2025.
Yeah.
So I think they're trying to offset a couple of their expenses with actually owning rather than just managing.
Yeah. You were saying too about the percent of Texas properties, right? How many Texas holdings? So, I mean, we're gonna need. Oh, this might be in the annual report too. So geographic footprint.
Oh yeah, I think it's page
19.
It gives like 5 communities.
Oh, but see, those are only the MPCs, master plan communities. So if you look over right? So that's only one aspect of their business, because they have the MPCs, the master plan communities, then they have the, what are they called? I don't even know what they're called. Well, I mean, they have shopping centers, Ward Village, obviously. They own a hospital, medical center in Vegas. They own lots of self-storage facilities. And they have hospitality assets as well. So this is all on page 22, 23. But I mean, mistake me, correct me if I'm wrong, but it does seem like most of their operations would be Texas, Nevada, Maryland, a little bit in New York, and Hawaii.
I see one in Chicago.
One Chicago, okay. And I think there was only one New York, so MPCs, master plan communities, shopping,
They have a couple also spread around.
a couple what?
So there's, it looks like Utah, California, New Jersey.
Okay,
I think
single
they're-
properties,
They're probably, single,
Yeah.
smaller.
okay.
West Windsor.
Doesn't it almost seem like though, right? I mean, Ward Villages are only, is
They
this,
have Maui Ranch land. 20 acres.
how do I send this to him?
Is it their entire one? Because I know they were splitting into like two. One is the older section and one is the newer section.
I don't know. I'm adding up AO on
Yeah.
page,
I think that might be.
Okay.
That's small. It's a little easy now,
So, so as I'm looking at bottom of page 20, bottom of page 20, we actually do get the idea, at least in terms of the operating assets, multifamily units, hospitality properties, other investments. Yeah, this is what we're talking about: Vegas, Nevada, New York, Texas, Maryland, etc. So, what do we see as the risk here for this company? What did any of you identify something that's different than I saw?
From their stated risks, or
From what?
because there were their stated risks. or
Yeah, and their stated risks are on what page? On page, yeah, it is. Page 8, right? Page 7. Yeah, page 8. Sorry, page 8, page 9, page 10. Yeah.
It seems like most of it is just whether or not people want to purchase or rent out.
And they have the anchor store mentioned that they make too, right? Which would be the thing that would affect Ward Village.
Do we know what their anchor stores are? I don't know if Ward is even, if it even has real anchor stores.
I don't think it does.
Is that?
Well, here's what they say again. Many of our mixed-use properties are anchored by big box tenants. So maybe that would be something we need to look up more. So let's put that down as something to find out about.
That's like Ward Theaters and that entire area.
Mm-hmm.
was like a 3-story complex.
No,
So
it's like its own parking.
Yeah.
It's absurd.
so I don't know if that's
So what I'm trying to do here is I'm trying to list the things that are going to start to distinguish our analysis from anyone else's, because, right, it's going to be the difference between what do they provide us versus what outside research we do in terms of the analysis. So that's this kind of list here that I'm starting. And I'll take pictures of this, that way we can kind of sort out here. If we look at the other risks, yeah, a lot of it does look like it's the interest rate changes. Wait, maybe you can hear us.
a lot of them are like just 2008 increases.
Right.
And then they actually mentioned their $2.9 billion debt.
Okay. Yeah, but again, it's not going to be as much as the others in this space. I'm not too. I mean, there are other risks. It looks like they're not really that. I mean, they're talking about hurricanes. They're talking about other things. I mean, we can go through those one by one, but I'm not as worried about those. You can hear me well. Okay. I'll put this by you guys so you can hear me better. I have a loud voice.
I think their strengths were a bit weird though. They had a couple.
Where are the strengths?
Okay, just so top of page 7.
Top of page 7, okay.
Or bottom, just below 6.
Okay.
So size and scope of the NPCs and the years of experience seem fine. But I don't know. I'm not sure what the recreational and cultural amenities available within our communities. I
Okay.
don't know what they mean by that entirely. I think I'd want to research more into it and see if it's an actual strength.
Okay.
And I guess what they're doing to continue.
Continue doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And then again, like you mentioned, the debt relative to total assets, seeing if that's much lower than the rest of the other firms that are similar.
Yep.
And then,
someone was saying, asked the question about the business model again. I think that will. I mean, again, my idea. So, the thing I was mentioning was that, as I've been thinking through this in my head for the past week, on my half-hour drive back and forth, I was thinking of it as opposed to the properties I know or the investments I know very well, the general growth properties as probably the premier surviving manager of properties. And let's say Alexander and Baldwin, at least the best local example we can think of as someone who owns and develops properties. Right, Alexander and Baldwin owning like construction stuff, physical materials used to build the structures, and owning a lot of land. And that somewhere in that middle space where those two kinds of companies intersect is something like a Howard Hughes, because for the most part, they're more GGP than they are A and B, but they are a little bit A and B. I think that's my best. That's my impression going through the annual report and going through this 10K, is that they're a little bit more GGP than they are A and B, but they do have elements of both, more so than GGP. Anyway, that's my best. That's my articulation of my understanding at this point. what I think might be useful for us would be to better understand that business model. They are clearly putting themselves, if you look at how they do their comparisons, and that would be when we look at when they're trying to find the returns on their different properties, their baseline is the Morningstar real estate, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah, for 25. They also do the index compared against them.
F 25 or 25? 25, right? So started with 25. I gotta start putting tabs. So the one thing that the other team did long ago is it started making tabs on this. Now I can see why that's useful. Page 25?
Yeah, that was just a graphic of. I don't know if that was. Actually
Oh, I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying. Yeah, yeah.
But
No, I
yeah, they
understand.
were
I understand.
comparing
Yep,
to market.
Yep, I'm over it. Yep, yep. Yeah, I'm not sure if that's a really fair comparison. That might be another thing that we can talk about as a question to investigate further. Is the Morningstar real estate an appropriate comparison? We need to have a good idea too of who their primary competitors are. I'm not sure if we have a good idea. I think the competitors have to be understood in two ways. Right? Is that you're going to have your national competitors, but certainly in something like real estate, your local, right? A local company can succeed greatly. I mean, again, think of now the difference between Howard Hughes and Alexander and Baldwin here in Hawaii, right? I mean, obviously, my impression is that Alexander and Baldwin would have more of a edge in a Hawaii development because they know this area well. And, it's not a given that a mainland company could know that well. But even if you're in, we saw they had one property in New Jersey, one property in California. Are they at risk of? Are they going to be able to expand further in those areas, not knowing those areas well? Clearly, they know Texas well. It's where they've been since the beginning. But is this a? I mean, here's another way of articulating this. Is this a Texas and Nevada company with a few other things? Or is it a national company as it seems to portray itself? I mean, again, if we think about its geographic footprint, well, we've probably listed here not even a dozen states.
There's more than
half a dozen states. Yeah, I mean, they've got like others where there's like a single property, but we really say this is a national company, or again, is it a Texas and Nevada company? And when something comes up, like why? So put it another way, why Howard Hughes for Ward Village? I mean, I don't know. That would be useful for us to know because then, when we're talking about the future, is this something like Texas and Nevada where its real estate markets are very different, its local economy is very different than a national company? Okay, so how do we articulate this? Competitors, national, local. Is Howard Hughes Corp a Texas, Nevada company? So this is unfortunately not as easy as banking, because banking, at least we know where the company has to exist. And even for something like Central Pacific, we knew it was basically an Oahu-based bank with a single bank branch on the others. Let's see. Was there? I mean, so what I just want to be able to watch our time here. I like this kind of articulation, where we're at least are talking about the things that kind of strike us about both of these documents. Again, we're just coming on the heels of final, so I'm not presuming that, we kind of tried to get some understanding of this before this meeting, but it's pushing us now to do this more, with the hope that we'll meet again next week to then start dividing up the tasks and actually. But I think this is useful because it's giving us some. The thing I was looking for, but I wasn't having a lot of great luck finding it. Do either of you still have your Think or Swim account, or your Paper Money account still active?
I don't know if it's active.
I'm trying to think of. I'll make this as a note for myself, because I want to look at some other analyst reports, and I'm having some trouble accessing them or finding any.
I can double check on my home computer.
Okay.
I'll probably be able to.
I mean, if not, I'm not in favor of doing it, but I could set up a fake brokerage account, put some money in it, and get access to it. I just don't like having to do that. Because my wife's firm gets all grumpy that they think I'm day trading based on insider information. I gotta find it. Doing shit like that.
So when should we have this sort of, I guess, researched by?
So what we want to do is we want to go into our next meeting, which I think we do. We want to go to our next meeting, which I'd like to try to do Monday or Tuesday, earlier in the week. That way, if we need to meet later in the week, we can still do that. That when we go into that meeting, that we extend this conversation further. Because at this point, here's what I've done. I haven't written in this, I've just read it. I haven't indexed it, I just glossed over it quickly. I looked at it yesterday as a change of pace from grading, and just kind of delved through this, but not that extensively. Is that kind of the way you read it as well? Yeah. So my hope is that when we meet next week, early next week, we can have an even more extensive conversation about many of these kinds of questions, and then raise more questions, so that we try to meet one more time next week, that we start to divide up the tasks that we could start to initiate before we meet again the first week of January. And then really start going through this. Because as Sung points out in the text he sent me too, I mean, knowing the business model is going to be important. Like, how is it that they, just being able to know the information first to get of, I mean, we can kind of see it on page 29, for instance. What is it that each of their activities contributes to their income, to their profit shares?
And how much has it changed?
And how much is it changing exactly? Is there a growth side to their business? Is there just an old legacy side to their business? I mean, if anything, when I looked at this again, kind of quickly, it actually looked like their master planned communities, their MPCs, were actually a slower growing side of their business than their strategic developments.
Are they more? They are a bit more stable though.
Yeah. So apparently here, so here's an example here. So Ward Village is what's a strategic development, which combines retail with housing. So the idea is we need to, if for instance, if the strategic developments, oh, here's another one here. they're building a ballpark in Vegas for a minor league team. Right, and the Las Vegas Convention and Visitor Bureau is going to pay them for 20 years um, to run this ballpark. And apparently, they're going to make a lot of money doing it. They are going to build a 66-room hotel as an amenity for the Seaport District in Columbia, Maryland. So that's actually where they're making a lot more money. So I honestly, one of my concerns that they didn't list as a concern, but is my concern is if the growth is coming from strategic developments, then right, is this a stable way of growing the company and we need to know more about the details of each of these strategic developments. Whereas the annual report, which I did read quickly, talks a lot more about the master plan communities because it's easier to understand, right? They just bought 50 acres of land and they just say we're going to put 100 houses on it, right? I mean that's easier to understand. People buy it, they pay an HOA fee, and they collect a pretty steady revenue stream from HOA fees. Or is that in a master plan community, right? There's an HOA fee, and I would assume. So again, this is where and I don't know it. This is where we are going to have to be knowledgeable about their business. How does the master plan community make money? It would seem to me there's two revenue streams at least. There's the HOA fee, but then there's also the fact that you bought the land and you built the property on the land in the place someone bought it from you. Which you're making a chunk of money at the initial purchase, and then I would assume you're making a better profit margin on HOA fees than you are on. We were talking about cell phones, right? You don't make money on selling the cell phone; you make money on the service.
Are they buying the property outright though? Or are they just leasing?
I think you buy the property, but
Or
your
you sort of
rights,
buy into
your property rights are different than if I just bought. Like if I bought something in Kapolei Golf, that golf course thing next door, that's different than if I bought in Manoa just a regular house, because I think I have like certain exclusive rights, but also the community has certain exclusive rights. Like they can tell me how I paint my house and who, like I can't sell it to Satanics or whoever, right? That like right. I mean they've got to do something about their community. Whereas in Manoa, right, I could sell it to whoever I want to, and I could
paint it orange.
Yeah, exactly. I could paint it orange. I could do whatever I want. So let's add this as a different thing here. My understanding at this point, again, this might change before we meet again next week, is that they have three core businesses again: strategic developments, master plan communities, and operating assets they directly own. How are they actually making money in their three core businesses or units? And when we put those three units together, how do we understand that in relation to how general growth makes money and how, let's say again, Alexander Ball? I'm not even sure those are good comparison companies, but that's also what we need to know. Who are their competitors on a national basis, but who are their competitors on a local basis? It looks like they have a pretty big Vegas footprint and they have a pretty big Texas footprint. What else? I mean, right? What are the threats that they face in those areas?
another one was updates to state laws or.
Oh yeah, I saw that. This was in the risks part. Is that
Yeah.
right?
So I don't know if we need to be extremely aware.
Yeah. Well, Vegas is notorious for being pretty Republican and letting people kind of do what they want. So this is what I was trying to look at here. I was trying to look at who is listed as their major competitors. According to Robinhood, I like the app. Do you guys use it? The Robinhood app? Oh, so cool. You can do trading for absolutely free of charge. Yeah, so like, and if you haven't signed up for it, tell me first, because I'll send you the referral and you actually get a free share of stock for opening an account. I get one too, so they give 1 and 1. And apparently it's, so Howard Hughes Corp, it is, whoa, geez, 7 analyst rating gave it 100% buy rating. How is that even? Yeah, I'm not really sure what they're, even in their description though, it's hard to say. Okay, so we have, so here's what I want to do, and because I don't want to keep this much longer than it needs to be. I mean, we're kind of doing group think here right now. We're trying to just kind of brainstorm here. I'm going to take pictures of this, but what I'm hoping is that, should we set, is Monday at 12:30 good for everybody? Okay, so let's do Monday at 12:30, right back here. When we meet, I will have those things scanned that Sung had from that book. That actually gets more into the actual valuation point.
Oh, the chapter 4.
Right, but at this point, what I want us to focus on the up to Monday is that not necessarily that we've got answers to all these questions, but that we have more answers and a better understanding of what the business is at this point. Then the little bit that we know enough to kind of talk about it like cocktail party style, but now we need to have an understanding that goes a little bit beyond that, which is what I'm hoping is our key thing by the end of Monday's discussion, is that we have all gone through this report, maybe that we've done individually what our tabs are, put some post-its of things to think about more. But what I'm hoping is that we leave next Monday with a better understanding of at least what the core part of their business model is, what are the legacy part of those units, what are the things that they're still doing but aren't really the growth sides, what are the things that are really the growth sides of this business, and then starting to outline what are the risks and opportunities with each of those 3 core businesses, so that then by the end of next meeting we have an understanding of how others have valued this company. So what the key thing I'm gonna do is do that, copy, read through the rest of this and start putting my tabs in, but I'm also gonna get the analyst reports as well that I can find. And if you can find the other analyst reports, let me know, but I'm gonna try to get the other analyst reports for this. So our homework is tabbing it up, writing your notes on the side, doing what you gotta do. That's what we'll do. Okay. A pretty easy task if you ask me.